in Washington, D.C., two Democrat-appointed judges and one Republican-appointed judge unanimously say, Donald Trump, we have heard your bullshit, and verily, we reject this bullshit. You are actually citizen Trump, and you do not have, quote unquote, immunity just because you were president.
Right. And this is, I mean, it was unanimous. And what we know is that this is going to be either kicked to the full appeals panel or just they're going to appeal it right up again to the Supreme Court, which Donald Trump has stacked. And, you know, the response, the 57-page response that the court put out said exactly that. So immunity,
it should have been a one line. It should have been. It should have just been this bullshit.
Right. But it's like, here, immunity, president. You get on the helicopter, you fly off of the South Lawn on Inauguration Day, you are no longer president. That helicopter is no longer Air Force One or Helicopter One or whatever. It's just a helicopter. So I don't understand. Again, I don't think, Waj, and you tell me, I don't think that the goal here is just to provide full blanket coverage for Donald Trump. I also think that the nefarious goal of these Trump attorneys is to just undo our laws, like just everything that we have not just like nodded and smiled at, but assumed to be true. Their goal is just to undo all of it. And as I believe that the attorney that is representing Trump in this 14th Amendment case, he's one of the reasons why Roe v. Wade is overturned because of his initial case that he brought in Texas. I need to look up this man's name that he brought. But that all of the cases that this one guy, and I have to find his name, that he is bringing up is all about undoing the law and getting rid of what he refers to as, quote unquote, judicial supremacy.
Oh, yeah. Because when the judiciary does its job and acts as a check, because we have a system of checks and balances, a separation of powers, then it is judicial activism. But when a majority of unelected judges in black robes decide to lie and undo a right that women have enjoyed, the right to privacy, then it's fine. That doesn't matter, even though the majority of the country is against it, right? So again, what we're witnessing, and I'm glad you're teasing this out, is a entire conservative movement and political party that is no longer beholden to the majority, is not beholden to the Constitution, is not beholden to the rule of law, is not beholden to democracy. It is beholden to Donald Trump, who has openly said that I'll be a dictator, but only for a day, I'll be a dictator. And to quote Steve Bannon, what did he say was a strategy for media? Flood the zone with bullshit. And what is the strategy for any machinery or institution that tries to hold these people accountable? They throw sand in the gears. So look what's happening in Georgia with Fani Willis, right? This bullshit about, I don't even want to repeat it, but like whatever. Like now this is the distraction from what is the real story is that you kind of have Trump dead to rights on tape trying to convince the Secretary of State, Brad Raffensperger of Georgia, to find the votes to give him Georgia, right? But if you just put sand in the gears, you slow it down, you flood the zone with bullshit, you confuse people, then justice gets delayed. Both sides. Was it an insurrection? Were they actually political prisoners? Was it a inside job by the FBI? I don't know. Let's have on both sides to discuss. News at 11.
Yeah. Here's what I want to say about what I said earlier. The lawyer is not who I'm referring to in the Trump case. It is this prominent conservative, legal scholar, and I use that tongue in cheek, Michael Luddig, who's a former judge on the U.S. Court of Appeals. He's the person that preempted and floated this idea around the president not being able to be indicted. I mean, not being able to to be disqualified vis-a-vis the 14th Amendment. He also argued that what I want to read what this says right here from Politico, which is that in recent months, thanks to the work of J. Michael Ludwig, a prominent conservative legal scholar and former U.S. Court of Appeals judge, who together with the liberal law professor Lawrence Tribe promoted the idea that the 14th Amendment, he promoted the idea.
He's been good. He's been
good.
He's been the guy who actually has been trying to hold Trump accountable. He's been the guy that Mike Pence consulted. He was the man, if you remember, during the impeachment hearings who came in and gave that stunning, people made fun of him for being so slow, but he was very deliberate. He's been the one who is the conservative who's tried to uphold the Constitution and rule of law. He
is not their friend. And so this is, I just think what is going to kill me, I guess, Waj, is that we don't know. Like we think that this argument is absolutely, you've said bullshit more in this episode than I think you've said the entire time we've ever recorded. And the thing is that it's a 50-50 toss-up if the Supreme Court lets this argument stand from the Trump team.
Yeah.
Because of how they, and this is not at all going to be based on the law or facts. It's just going to be based on Clarence Thomas, who has a billionaire sugar daddy, right? Kavanaugh, who was forced in by Trump and Mitch McConnell, Coney Barrett. Like these are not people who are going to go, really meticulously through the law. They've already made up their minds. So I just look at this and I'm terrified.
They're trying everything, because if you remember last year, they tried some bullshit called the independent state legislature theory, that that would give them credence to enact their coup plan, by taking the election away from the people who are the ones in charge, and then giving it to the right-wing hacks, who will then reject the electoral votes and then give it to their own appointed cronies, right? And Justice Ludwig, again, the conservative retired judge, was the one who said this is nonsense. This is, in his words, well, in my words, cliff noting what he said was bullshit. But it went to the Supreme Court, and you're sitting there, like, literally on pins and needles. Oh my God, this is clearly nonsense. This is clearly dangerous. But maybe the Supreme Court might actually side with a criminal, reckless, potentially illegal precedent just to give Trump power, right? Like, you don't know. And we've spent this episode talking about how this is nonsense, but we sit here, and if it does go to the Supreme Court, do you have faith in the Supreme Court to do the right thing, Danielle? Do you have faith in the Supreme Court to uphold the Constitution and rule of law for the sake of upholding our democracy? I do not. I
do not. And finally, for the love of God, Google is my friend. Trump's lead attorney is Jonathan Mitchell. And he is the one that has been trying to convince judges with this idea of part and parceling out. Oh, well, he's not really an officer. He's not really this. Like, the president is a king. Like, all of these little trip ups that are bringing these cases before serious judges that have no business being brought. And I think that what frustrates me is that it took the 3-panel judges in DC 3 weeks to make this decision that, like, again, I don't have a law degree, and I shouldn't need one to know that what Donald Trump is doing, what these lawyers are doing, is malicious. And it is just like it's like death to democracy by 1,000 cuts.
That's exactly
just to bleed us out.
And not just, attacks on the judiciary, attacks on the rule of law, attacks on Congress, folks. It is a word that we've brought up on the show that I want to, again, bring up: stochastic terrorism, that is now just accepted, right? The fact that we had McKay Coppins here, who's an author, and I mentioned this recently. He talked about how Romney told him and other conservatives who were off the record that they're afraid of their own base. They're afraid of their own base. And it's just a story that just again, I want to bring
tell
up
them why they should be afraid of their own base.
Well, because their base wants to kill them. Here's another story that if it was a black man or a Muslim would be leading the news right now, but again, just lasted for a few hours. A man was arrested for trying to kill immigrants and federal law enforcement. He was plotting with militia members because he believed in the right-wing, quote-unquote, invasion conspiracy. So he wanted to go to the border and kill these immigrants and federal law enforcement. And they finally caught him, thankfully, and the plot did not go through. But he was using the rhetoric that is now all over right-wing media and being parroted by conservative lawmakers. And by the way, was used by Trump right before the 2018 midterm election. And right when that happened, folks, I got to remind you that Robert Bowers, a white man radicalized online, went and shot and killed 11 Jews at the Tree of Life Synagogue in Pennsylvania because he wanted to punish the invaders. And this keeps happening, Danielle, again and again and again. And also, I think we brought this up last week. It bears reminding, the judge told the jury, for your own safety, don't tell anyone that you were on served in this case.
But instead,
we keep taking it.